Hello, people of YouTube. This is George on a motorcycle. He is made out of acrylic paint and he's on a oak wood plank. I'll show you a little bit of up closer. There's his lovely face. I forgot to add nostrils, so George survives on aura alone. And he's doing well. He's thriving in that way. So there's his motorcycle. Pretty cool, pretty cool. He's got some engine parts. Pretty cool, pretty cool. George's face. I'm not a big fan of the back end of the motorcycle, so don't look too hard. And yeah, he's on an oak piece of wood. This is the back of the wood, if you care. The back's not finished, or like, I covered him in a polyurethane to seal it in, but I didn't really bother with the back. I just did the edges in the front, so the back is a little bit, this is what it looks like with polyurethane on it, and this is what it looks like without, in case you were curious. And then on one side, it's got a little bark left, a little remnants of the tree that it once was. And then the other sides are just, cut wood. So yeah, that is George on a motorcycle on an oak wood plank. I will be telling you about what he's made out of, the colors I used, and my process. But first, I'm going to tell you why his name is George. So I had posted a picture of this onto my Instagram, and then one of my friends commented on it and was like, oh my goodness, he's so gorge, like Gorge. And when I read it at first, I thought she said, oh my goodness, he's so George. And I was like, oh my goodness, he is so George. Because at that point in time, it was an untitled piece of work. It was just, I posted a picture of a frog on a motorcycle. And now it's George on a motorcycle. So he got his name because I misread something. But it turned out great because this is George on a motorcycle. So now I will get into the process of how I created George on the motorcycle. So one day I was like, I want to paint, but I have no inspiration. So I went to Pinterest, as one does. And I'm scrolling. Nothing's crazy. And then something crazy happened. I saw a picture of a frog, like a real frog, on a toy motorcycle. And I wish I had the picture, but I don't have it anymore. I used that picture as, first of all, inspiration, and then second of all, I use it as a reference for George himself. I didn't copy the motorcycle because the motorcycle in the original picture it looked very much like a toy, and I wanted a realistic looking motorcycle. So all my references for the motorcycle itself were kind of just like random parts from different motorcycles I found on Google. I didn't even bother saving any of those photos. I just go on Google. I like this part of one motorcycle. I like the engine part of another motorcycle. I needed to find a wheel that was slightly turned on a different picture because it was very hard to find a picture of a whole motorcycle that looked exactly like that was at the right turn. And I'm not too good at turning things in my head. I need a reference to know what that actually looks like. For now, I would like to get better at being able to rotate things in space and put it on a 2D surface. But for now, a reference in that exact angle is necessary for me. So yeah, this is just a combination of a bunch of random motorcycles, and George is from the original photo that I wish I had. Also, I hope it's not illegal that I painted their picture. I don't know. It wasn't even posted by someone original on Pinterest. It was like someone had screenshotted someone else's picture and put it on Pinterest. So it was like a whole, I'm sorry if you're the person who took this picture and I just like hijacked your idea and copyrighted it. I don't know. Please don't come for me. I don't have a lawyer right now. Anyways, moving on. I drew out George, right? I drew him all in pencil on the wood because I wanted to know exactly where every stroke of paint was going to go before I started, because I wanted to keep the background this solid wood. I didn't want to add any background, so it was important that I knew exactly where each paint started and each paint stopped, so I wouldn't have to because I can't paint over paint with wood grain, and I couldn't really wipe it off either because it's likely that it just would stain the wood a little bit. Even if I did try to wipe it off, it wouldn't be the same. So I drew them out completely, and then after I did that, I went ahead and did some color testing because I wasn't sure what the color palette was going to be. At first, it was just going to be George on a green motorcycle because in the original photo, he was on a green toy motorcycle, but I didn't like the way it looked. It looked too green, and my thought process behind going for red was just like, well, red and green are complementary. That's going to make George pop, and I want George to pop because he's a star. So Now George is popping. He is a star. And this is the process of getting to that star. I did some testing on the colors, on what kind of colors I wanted the engine to look like. This is like the bluish. This is more greenish with the lighter engine. You know, you can see the differences. If you can see color, you know, that you just if. And then after I decided on this one for color palette wise, I got a little bit more specific on his face and what I was going to do for his stripes. Because George has stripes. And the stripes on him actually didn't turn out exactly as they did here. I liked it the way it turned out here, but then it wasn't quite working on the actual painting. So I did switch it up a little bit, but I don't hate it. I actually really like it. He's got like a little dotted texture. Kind of looks like he's wearing black eyeliner as well. George is a little bit of a punk, just a little bit, and that's okay. We love him. We love him for it. George. And then after I had chose my color palette, then it was time to do the actual palette itself. This is what I used to do the painting and mixing for him. This is just a file thing with, I think this is wax paper. It's either wax or parchment. Pretty sure it's wax paper. Wax paper stapled to it because it's just what I have sitting around. This ripped on accident, whoopsies. And now I will show you the colors that I used. So this is the George section, and this is the motorcycle section with a little bit of George. I did use some blue on George, but I mostly used the blue to mix like this steel color. So that's where this came in. This is actually not even a, well, it's kind of a blue. It's called Bright Aqua Green, which I don't love because it doesn't feel green to me, but it does say aqua. So it's like aqua's blue and a little blue green, so it's okay that it's titled that. But anyways, Liquid X Bright Aqua Green, that's for that I used to create like a bluish steel color. And then also for the body of the motorcycle, there is a cadmium red deep hue, also by Liquid X. This does dry a little bit darker than it comes out, so if you're interested in using it, just keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. It actually comes out pretty close to the color that's on here, but if you look on the actual paint in the tube, it's gonna look a little brighter. Yep. But it dries about that color. Anyways, moving on. And then I also use just Mars Black. That's what this black is, and that's the color of his vest and the tires. The tires also have a little bit of blue and white mixed into them. I don't have my white paint out, but it's just like a classic, I think like titanium white or something. Just a white. And I was going to add some color variation onto his leather jacket, but after I finished and I just did a solid black thing first before I added any lights, highlights or shadows or anything, I just made it solid black, and it turned out pretty good. So I didn't want to mess with it and try and add like a lighter tone to it. I just left it all black. And now I'm talking about the colors of George. Okay. I used 3 colors for George, not including the white. The first one is a phthalo green by My Artscape. These are really good paints. My only drawback from them is, one, they're getting a little old, so they do get a little clumpy. Like if you look at the texture of George, oops, dropped it. If you look at the texture of George, he does look like the motorcycle is a bit smoother than he is because those paints are not as old, so they're less clumpy. Hello? Sorry about that. So yeah, 1, they're getting a little old, so that's making them a little clumpy. And then 2, they're in a jar, which is not something that I enjoy, that I've discovered. Because to get paint out of the jar, you must open the jar. And then you must take a palette knife and scoop out your paints, and then you must take that palette knife and wipe it onto your palette, and then you must close your jar, and then before you can do the next one, you have to wipe off your palette knife so you don't mix it into your next color. And that's just too many steps for me. I prefer these kind that I can just and then I have my color. It's much simpler, but the paints themselves are good. I'm just a little lazy. And then, oh, forgot to tell you, this one's a pale green. That's what this is in the middle. That's pale green. And then the last color I used for George is in this lemon yellow bottle, but it is not lemon yellow. I was given these paints by a friend, and they had put some, I think it's cerulean blue if I had to guess. They put some blue in the yellow, so now it's green. So it's labeled lemon yellow, but it's like a light lime electric green. But if you wanted to mix it yourself, I would say lemon yellow and cerulean blue. And that was the last color used on him. And also just a little bit of the bright aqua green to get this beautiful George color. And this is the palette itself. Whoop. And then you can see some of the mixing going on. Different tones, different shades. I am a bit generous when I scoop out from the jars, from these. One, because I don't want to throw them up. I don't want to throw them up. I don't want to throw up. Anyways, I don't want to throw them away because they're still useful. But I also want to get rid of them. Like, I want to use them up because I'm sick of using a palette knife when I can just... But I'm not going to buy more if I have paints already. So I don't want to be wasteful, but I do want to use them up. So I'm a little generous. There's a lot more of those paints left over versus these ones, if you can tell. So yeah, I'm a little bit more stingy with these ones because I want them to last longer than I want these to last long. Because I've had these for years anyways, and they're getting old, as I said. So I don't care if I put too much on the palette. I'm not going to cry about it. But if I use too much white on the palette, I am going to cry about it because I run out of white a lot. Because I use white in pretty much everything. So yeah, I think that's it. That's everything for George. Oh, actually, one last thing before I go. So George is sealed off with a polyurethane coat, as I mentioned earlier. But I was a little scared before I did that because I wasn't sure how the acrylic paint was going to react with it because I had never done it before. I was scared that it was going to get all like crinkly or like bubble or do something weird, cause some kind of discoloration or something. So I took this scrap piece of wood and I used all the paints that I used on the George on a motorcycle, and I just put them here. I tried out 2 different polyurethanes. They both survived just fine. I used a satin one to seal him in, but I had satin and gloss. So yeah, I tested them out. I also tested it out over some, what are these? These are watercolors. And I tested the watercolors to see how it reacted on the darker. This is a red cedar, so like the red part of the red cedar versus the whiter part of a white cedar. And obviously it's more vibrant when it's not competing with a muted color. But yeah, everything turned out fine with the polyurethane. I'm glad I tested it. It gave me some peace of mind. And I also got a wood burner. There was no wood burning in this piece, but I have been doing some cool stuff with the wood burning. So if you're interested in that, check out my channel because I will be uploading a video of wood burning pieces eventually. So yeah, that was my tester. This is George on a motorcycle. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to see more of my artistic creations, check out my channel because I post my artistic creations. You have a lovely day, and I will hopefully see you next time. George!